At first, I wasn't even going to come on live, to be quite honest. But as we know, this has become the slap heard around the world. Um, Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. And I did see it. I didn't see it when it actually happened, but I did see it in real time. And my thing is, and listen, I understand where Will Smith is coming from, because let's face it, was the joke in poor taste? Absolutely it was. Is Chris Rock funny? To me, he's always been a hit or miss comedian. Either his stand-ups or his routine. His routine is either very good or very bad. There is no in between with Chris Rock. He's either great or terrible. And let's face it, whenever he's been on the Oscars, to me, he's always been terrible. And I'm shocked that the Oscars even let him back. That's just my humble opinion. But you can tell where the guy was telling a joke. Now, was it in poor taste? It absolutely was. Was it poor timing? It absolutely was, because it was right after Jada has shared the fact that now she has alopecia. Now, the first thing he said in saying the joke was, listen, Jada, I love you. I can't wait till G.I. Jane 2 comes out. I mean, these guys have known each other for years, for at least 20 plus years. So these guys have a history already. And he's made a couple of jokes that have been a little off kilter when it comes to Jada and Will and their I guess her entanglement, so to speak. But for Will Smith to do what he did, and this is a classic example of acting the fool in mixed company. Yeah, I said it. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I tell you what, ask your mother or grandmother what I'm talking about. I know that's a very old saying. Hey, on St. April, how you doing? Good to see you in the chat. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much. Thank you. But that was inexcusable. Now I understand coming to the defense of your wife. I get it. Listen, I would definitely come to the defense of my wife. There is no question about that. But there was a way for him to handle that. And for him to handle it the way that he did in front of millions and millions of people, where he could have, and this is not some 19 or 20-year-old kid who's not used to anything. Will Smith has been a part of Hollywood for 30 some odd years. That is inexcusable. Chris Rock could have, listen, this could have really gotten even worse. To be honest, Chris Rock actually comes out smelling like a rose because he never hit back. He was still professional. He kept going on. In fact, he said this is the greatest moment in the history of television. Well, it probably is for him. But if you thought, hey, pretty brown eyes, and once again, happy birthday to you. Now, if you thought Oscars was so white before, well, it's going to be Andy Griffith, Mayberry, Little House of Prairie now. Because you're going to see very little black folk when it comes to the Oscars from now on. In fact, now, the black folks from here might not even be invited. We don't have too many jobs in Hollywood as it is. Now you're going to see the Lupita Luongos and I can't even think of the other dude's name. What's the guy's name? He was in, what's that movie with, oh God. Now I just had brain freeze now. Oh gosh. David something. Oh yeah, I'm getting to that, Dr. Onsite. I'm getting to that. But gosh, Acrimony was the name of the movie. Taraji P. Henson was the star of the movie. What's that guy's name? Please, if someone in the chat, let me know the guy's name. But he's of African descent as well. You're going to see more African folks from the continent of Africa and not from here that'll be invited to the Oscars quicker than the Black Americans. Let's face it, because we're already being phased out as it is. But I mean, the Oscars are going to be ridiculous next year, and Will Smith's career is basically flushed right down the toilet because he's not going to be redeemed after this. And yes, of course, there's much more going on. What we saw tonight was Will Smith being overwhelmed, because every single time it's always about Jada. It's about Jada's entanglement. It's either about Willow or it's about Jaden with Tyler, the Creator. Right now, Will Smith is overwhelmed with everything. Looking like BET Awards, well, more like the Source Awards. And if you remember the Source Awards back in the day, I don't even need to go over that. But I believe that Will Smith is having a mental breakdown. I think he's overwhelmed, and he really needed to step away. I think the last thing he should have, and listen, we know now his award is basically tainted. I understand him being a protective husband. I get it, but there was a way to do that. He could have did that backstage. He didn't have to do that on stage. Or he could have went afterwards and said, "Listen, Chris Rock, we've been okay for many years, but listen, I appreciate you didn't say that. To me, you was out of line. This, that, and the third." He didn't have to put his hands on it. I understand that. And listen, of course, nobody's a more protective husband than I am. So I get it. But mentally, and again, Will Smith has been in this game for too many years not to know any better. Again, this is not a 20-year-old where, oh man, he's just trying to figure it out. Will Smith has been a part of this since 1988. So there is no excuse for him to do what he did. Now, to be quite honest, this could have went a lot worse. Listen, I agree. He could have spoke to him backstage. He didn't have to put his hands on him. And for anybody who thinks it's staged, then I understand. At first I thought it was, but the reason that I don't think it was staged was because you had Denzel Washington talking to this man in the back. And Will, you could see, had totally lost it. Tyler Perry was trying to calm him down. Bradley Cooper. I mean, too many people were there trying to calm Will Smith down. There was a much better way to handle that. And that's just my opinion. Especially, I mean, again, if this was maybe 22-year-old Will Smith, you might give him a pass. Yeah, that's my thing on site. For the past 3 or 4 years, he has been, he's been looking like a fool due to Jada Pinkett. A lot of her actions have made him look like a fool. And here's the other thing, the elephant that will always be in the room. See, the Will and Jada dynamic, Will is still chasing that ghost. That ghost name is Tupac Shakur. See, everybody knows that Jada's first love is Tupac. Always has been, always will be. He was the dude who was left over because Tupac was no longer here. Tupac always was and always will be Jada's first love. Now, when it comes to Tupac, there was another woman that was also in love with Tupac. Now, unfortunately, she's no longer here either. And that's Left Eye. But that's another chapter in another book. And I will talk about that sometime this week, hopefully. But it is very rare that there are two people that are so head over, and let's face it, Left Eye was, I mean, you talk about in love with Tupac, Left Eye was in love with Tupac just as much as Jada was, if not more. But, and yeah, and that's what it was. He wanted to show how tough he was. But see, the problem with that is people have done much worse to Will, and he did absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. When that man came up to kiss him, why didn't Will slap the crap out of him? That man invaded his area and did nothing. But he did that to Chris Rock. We know Chris Rock is a $150, soaking wet. He knew what he was doing. Oh, yeah, on-site. You know what? Google that when you get a chance. Left Eye was totally in love with Tupac. In fact, when Tupac passed away, that's when all the crazy stuff started happening with Left Eye. And if you remember, near the end, her and TLC had basically split up. Now, Left Eye had joined Death Row Records and had an album that never came out called Supernova. The album never came out. But yeah, she was really head over heels over Tupac. But yes, Will Smith is still chasing that ghost. And it's sad. No, he was shocked. He was absolutely shocked. He didn't expect that at all. He did not expect that at all. But to Chris Rock's credit, of course he wouldn't have done that to Jerry Seinfeld. That's my point. He wouldn't have done that to Jerry Seinfeld. He wouldn't have done that to Billy Crystal. Listen, he wouldn't have done that to, oh God, what's the other comedian's name? Louis C.K. Yeah, that's why it wasn't released. Now, I don't know exactly why it wasn't released, but I know that she had done the album. She had actually joined Death Row because she had actually left TLC. She was done with TLC. Oh, he would have never done that to Bill Maher. Well, yeah, he did. He said that. And listen, Chris Rock could very well press charges. And nobody can say he didn't have the receipts. Because let's face it, even though Chris Rock was out of line, he never attacked Will Smith. I mean, that's a whole different ball game when you're just making a tasteless joke, than going up to actually assault a person. And we know that we know Chris Rock's not built like that. We know that. But to be honest, Will Smith isn't really built like that either. He just knew who to do that to. And again, it's an absolute disgrace that he did it in mixed company, especially after that long campaign, Oscars so white, they need change. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of change, all right. Unfortunately, we already know how that's going to work out. Yeah, the Oscars might not be as white as they used to be, but there's going to be less of us and more quote unquote diversity. The next Oscar goes to Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's not going to be Will Smith will never win another Oscar in his life. Shoot, J-Lo will win an Oscar before Will Smith ever wins another one. And we know she can't act worth a damn. I mean, please. Excuse me. They've been trying to make us expendable anyway. And let's face it, unfortunate. And we don't truly know what's going on behind closed doors, Dr. Onsite, but unfortunately, because of Jada, we know a little bit of what's going on because she's been so willing to share it all. And we know that for years that they've had an open relationship because Will's hands are not exactly clean either. Listen, I can't argue that, but right now Chris Rock has taken the high road and he's coming out smelling like a rose. He really is. And again, I can understand the emotions when it comes to Will Smith, but unfortunately, and yes, Jada is very toxic, but let's face it, a lot of times, unfortunately, when it comes to our people, we ride too much on emotion instead of logic, and that has gotten us into problems. I mean, that's one of those you think before you act. And Will Smith, again, should know better. Excuse me. But it's sad because this has now become Will Smith's defining moment. We're no longer going to remember Will Smith for The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We're no longer going to remember Will Smith for Bad Boys. We're no longer going to remember him for Independence Day. We're no longer going to remember him for playing Muhammad Ali as brilliant as he did. He will always be remembered for the slap heard around the world, and it's going to be sad. It's going to be very sad, and you're right. Talk short, long 50. Listen, you could have made a case. Now, if he wanted to go after that August dude, he had every right. But the only problem is she wanted that to happen. There have been so many times where he's been put in the inevitable position to have to defend someone in that family where he is just overwhelmed. Now, unfortunately, whether he likes it or not, he's going to disappear from Hollywood for quite some time. Now, his popularity is going to rise, but the wrong way. Now, in some ways, a lot of people will tell you that any publicity is good publicity, but when it comes to Will Smith, who has built up a reputation, this kills it. And again, this is a 50-something, a 50-something-year-old man. This is not a kid. This is not the baby. This is not some young kid trying to make it or just coming out. You see what happened to that young kid from The Chi after the allegations. His career shot. He's done. Now, will Will Smith be able to come back later on? Maybe in about 5-10 years? Maybe, but he'll never be as big as he is right now. And I guarantee you, he'll never win another Academy Award. That's all I have this evening. I thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Dr. Onsite, Peace, Love, April. Thank you, Pretty Brown Eyes. Thank you, Warren Miller. Thank you, Tiff Love. Thank you, Talk Short Long 50. Thank you all so much for joining me. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Uncle Claude signing out. Take care, stay safe, and may the Most High continue to bless everyone in the chat. Thank you. Good night, everybody.